everyone, this is Vera, and I'm not sure how I will tag this reading. I've been thinking a lot about doing the Taurus reading next, but I've got a lot of information coming in this morning, and I feel that it should probably be shared with all and not limited. I really don't know how to tag it. I mean, I have Taurus, I have Taurus Sun, Taurus Venus, Sagittarius rising. I, have felt that I've experienced some of the twin flame dynamic or understood things that way, but then also ascensionary soulmate, as Lindy Cowling called it. I was just listening to something by Mel at Gold Ray Twin Flames this morning. It was just super interesting to hear his perspective, although it's not the same as my perspective. I learn from it, and my understanding grows. I also listened to Sarah Verba this morning, her moon magic for this new moon coming up, and I listened to a little bit of the Ascension Journals. I'm going to listen to that more later because I wanted to get my own thoughts out first. Love Amber over there. And I always read Lorna Bevan at Hair in the Moon Astrology, all of her. Well, I haven't actually been reading her long monthly reports yet because my PayPal got weird and I stopped paying for them automatically. But I read what she puts on Facebook and on her blog. So there's a lot going on. One thing is the sextile at this new moon between Neptune, sort of dreaminess, and then Saturn, like practicality. And that plays into a little bit what came to me this morning. And usually I try to put things that are like, I already did Aquarius's since it's your birthday month. So I had over here coming out of the January eclipses, and then here going into the, very broad strokes, but January eclipses, and then looking toward the July eclipse is what's here for you now. Then I had this one, air for Aquarius right here. Okay, but then what came to me is I want to pull certain cards because it really came to me in the language of tarot. Oh, there's the Six of Wands, which is like public commitment in a way. 10 of Wands in this deck is beautifully kind of laying your burdens to the earth, letting the earth help you carry them, or actually relinquishing those you've taken on. All of this relates a lot to what I've been thinking about, or what's been coming to me. As a Taurus, I've been thinking, oh my gosh, how do I ground? This is like a new, it's so important to Taurus not to be, sort of stereotypical, but it's very important. Stability, but also, you don't want to be stuck in old formats of stability, right? So I've talked a lot about it, that we all move into, I talked about this in the Aquarius reading and then the group reading before that, the collective reading before that, as we move, like realign ourselves, as we each come into our soul's integrity and our soul's true shape, which we are here on earth to experience. And as of the earth, we've taken on these earthen bodies. We are part of the earth. We are part of the earth's consciousness, expression, creativity, manifestation powers. We are not only on the earth, we are of the earth. And we may create, as we come in, we are all here to create heaven on earth. So that any idea of ascension is not separate from grounding and practicality. So you think of the 5D and then the 3D. I feel like I've had sort of fear of both, of like what my abilities and capabilities might be in both, and how to deal with both, and how to hold both. But here we are, and we are moving into this gorgeous new time, and there's so much going on with the astrology and with politics and with all these different formats you could look at it as. I wrote a note to Mel on his video about, I called it unconditional loves, all these unconditional loves that we have here. I mean, you don't just have your romantic relationships, right? You have, and some people don't even have romantic relationships. I've learned so much about all the different ways the younger generation is finding new language to describe how people inhabit their own idiosyncratic, gorgeous sexuality and or asexuality. There are all these different ways that we experience things, right? So I have unconditional love, definitely for my children, definitely for, you know, I'd say really what I've been able to express as unconditional has only been in 2 romantic relationships. I don't think I've managed that in all of my romantic relationships. Definitely not. But it's here I'm saying we're taking, it's not just what the other person's doing or what where society's placed us, or where even any, you know, I used to get annoyed with some of the things people would say about Taurus as being materialistic, being stubborn or whatever. You know, there's all different ways that we've been defined, and we've defined ourselves, and we've resonated with ideas that have been handed down or brought forth, you know, even through our bodies and through our minds and through our books and all these things. You know, things are shifting. Things are shifting, and how do we find that ground where we can actually manifest and actually collaborate? It's a collaborative effort. Okay, so everyone needs to be, I also teach community college, and I was talking to my students last night about what is a society and how do we actually collaborate to make a society where each person is cared for and each person is free, and, you know, we really recognize and honor ourselves deeply and each other deeply, and how we, you know, so that when you're talking about, you know, wanting to actually be in a physical union, say with somebody who you think of as a twin flame or a divine, there's a divine love between you, and you want to have that as part of your daily joy. And you look in history, people have experienced that. People definitely have, maybe a little bit crammed into like the social norms or expectations of their time, but people have experienced that. I've experienced that. And, you know, there have been ways I've been dealing during this eclipse tunnel with like really trying to let go of certain ways that I have comforted myself and felt stable. And some of those actually are disassociative patterns. Like I think, oh, I'm eating all these sweets, and then that's going to make me feel happy somehow or comforted somehow. But actually it makes me feel less in my body. I'm not saying that's true for everyone. All these things are really hard to deal with because of all this kind of incrustation that's come on them in our culture and in our society and in our economic system. You know, money is hard to deal with. Food is hard to deal with. All these things are hard to deal with for a lot of people because they've just been so misaligned and abused, misused, and used for like power over rather than just for each person being in their power and being valued properly, right? So, you know, their labor and their contribution being acknowledged in a practical way. Okay, what had come to me is I wanted to get out the 2 of Wands and the 4 of Wands. So it's a needing to be in a state of receptivity, in a state of self-dignity, and the dignity of the self wholly embodied. So I've talked a lot in recent videos about, as a divine feminine, or somebody who I really do, in seeing myself, in understanding myself, or having embodied myself as a Taurus, as somebody with Venus in Taurus as well, as really Venusian, and in a female body, and, you know, having born children, nursed children, cared for children, all these things where I feel like a female mammal as well, you know, because I am. And all, you know, not to say everybody experiences gender in their own way, and I'm not saying anything is in any way more valuable than anything else. It is all gorgeous expression of who we are, unless it's hurting someone else. Then that is not true sexuality, in my opinion. That's actually simply violence, sexualized violence. Anyway, okay. How do we allow ourselves to be in a state of embodiment, wholly, wholly, wholly present, when so much about having been embodied has instilled fear and has experienced violence and has experienced judgment and has experienced self-hatred and has experienced discomfort and has experienced harm, so that we have learned to disassociate in a way. I went through a very abusive childhood in this lifetime, and some of the ways that I deal with food are related to that. It doesn't help me necessarily in the moment deal with it to know that intellectually, but how are we in our bodies brought home to our souls, making a home, inhabiting deeply our bodies, okay? And this then has to do with any kind of tender, gorgeous, beautiful, vulnerable sexuality that you might experience with another union, okay? So there's something about being in a state of receptivity, like, and presence. You are present in the world. You are active and you do things, but you are present, okay? You perceive, sometimes I get beyond on this channel what I can express in language, but what I can say is I'm using the Two of Wands here as a language of saying, here you are. It is safe for you to be here, dear one, and you are in your body. You are perceptive. You are wholly present in each cell, and you can treat yourself with the dignity and care and love and grace and absolute wonder and honoring that, is your birthright, and you are here and you are receptive, okay? And it is only by having your two wands aligned that you then might come into collaboration and make this spaciousness, your contribution to making the spaciousness for all of us to fall into true alignment with ourself and with each other, is to be present in yourself and to be receptive. That's something that has been tagged feminine, but it's true for men as well. I think that might be all. I guess that's what I wanted to say. Maybe I could pull some more cards and one for a Valentine for each sign, and I want to do that. I really do, and I'm going to do that. I will do that, but for now I think I'm leaving this maybe as a Valentine for the collective. I'm checking to see. Yes, my camera's still rolling, so I'm going to pull a few cards for us, okay? So this will be for yourself, and this can be for others who you are in important relationships with. The star flew out again. I got her yesterday, or not yesterday, but whenever my last reading was, also, because I need to shuffle, but Anne Frank came out. I mean, this is hope in the darkest of times, and self-trust, and self-expression, and sort of message in the bottle through time, sort of. You all know the story of Anne Frank. What a wondrous creature. What a brave, brave soul. And you are one as well. And we are all here. Our being here has meaning. Be kind to yourself. It has meaning you might not even realize to others. The Ace of Swords. So a clarity, a happiness, a curiosity within this grand mystery that we find ourselves in. That clarity and that curiosity and that acknowledgement of the mystery and that joy in being part of the expression of the mystery is something that can help you in grounding your presence here on earth. Even the flights of fancy and invention here, Mae Jemison, an astronaut. That gorgeous ability to envision and invent that is one of humanity's great gifts, but it can also be used in a shadow, way that harms. We are here on earth to experience that not even using the language of shadow and light anymore, but I don't even have the language for it, guys. But this is a time where we are grounding. We are grounding so that we may collaborate to bring about a gorgeous way of living on earth, but we also simultaneously there's this clarity which can at times feel harsh as we move into our true alignment, because as I said in the last video, we have been sort of held ourselves in places that weren't quite aligned, and it's shifting, and so within the shifting it can feel a little sharp at times, but really this reading is about trusting ourselves and being fully present so that we aren't disassociating. Like, this isn't part of disassociating into the mind. It's all held, it's all held within. Think of, every body part, think of its importance. We're taught so much to think the brain is the most important. Think of every, you can think of the heart, you can think of your guts, you can think of your sexual organs, you can think of all these things as important, but think of every bit, the importance of it. And then there's a patience, there's a profound patience that then can come into play as we create together. Okay, I think that's enough. I think that's enough for now. Great love to you all. And I've been thinking about how we don't have to be scared of, so much of this journey for me has been, learning new ways of thinking of time and the calendar and how we understand, the spheres and all these things, like allowing myself the knowing that these gifts are real, these ways of understanding are real. And there's still, great intellectual, intuition is not separate from intellect. In fact, they need so much to work together to have balance within ourselves, within our relationships. Okay, this is the best I can do today, dears. I hope this is useful to you. As I wear a headband that was given to me by a dear friend, and we had a falling out, and we're still falling out. But just to think of every person that's come, that's been part of your life. I mean, not to force it, because some things are very difficult to forgive. And true forgiveness is an amazing thing, but yeah. Lots of love to all.